Do you have your weighted companion cube? What's inside? Nothing. Oh God! Oh. Hello everyone, I'm Papa Kenn and welcome to episode 74 of Discovering Doctor Who. I hope you enjoyed that little dramatic moment there in the intro. I literally thought of it just on the spot. I thought it would be kind of funny. It probably failed. But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's talk about the episode that I'm going to talk about. That was a horrible way to segue. The Power of Three. And now, one thing I'm going to refer to a little bit later is the fact that I think this episode should have been called something else, but yeah, I'll save that for the end. Let's get into my favorite parts of this episode, starting with Brian Williams. I'm so glad he made his return, even though I can only assume it's going to be a very short-lived return, since the next episode is Amy and Rory's final one. But it was so great to see Brian appear again. He's just such a fun character, and a few of the commenters have referred to him as sort of the next Wilf, in a sense, which I can kind of see that if we had had more time to get to know the character some more, I can definitely see that, because Wilf, like, we get to see him at different points throughout the Tennant's not just the season, but Tennant's run, and you really get to know him and love him as a character, and Brian, you definitely get to love him as a character, but we don't have, or rather, I don't have that full-on connection with him the same way I did with Wilf, or I don't have as much of a developed love for him as I did Wilf. But yeah, it's just, as a whole, he's just a great, fun little character, very sweet and adorable. It's just, I can't think of a better person to have played him. It's probably the next time I watch any of the Harry Potter movies that Michael Williams appears in, I'm just going to be like, oh, it's Brian! Even though that's not, I don't think that's his name. I don't know what the dad's name, or Papa Weasley's first name is in those movies. Might have to check that out. But anyway, I'm rambling. Time to get on to my number 2 favorite part of this episode, which is Kate Stewart. And now, I'm sure I'll have a much greater appreciation for her, I guess it was the character's father, when I go back into the classic era and actually get to meet him. But her appearance in this episode was a lot of fun. And I didn't actually write down this quote, but I think the first time she sees the Doctor, her line is essentially, again, I'm paraphrasing, with that kind of clothing that you must be the Doctor. So it's like basically, from how the Doctor is like, very quirky in how he dresses, and people will make references to it throughout the different seasons. Like they talked about was it a bomber jacket or a fish, whatever the jacket was for the 9th Doctor. Different things, especially about him being so insanely skinny when it was the 10th Doctor. So yes, Kate Stewart was just a fun character, a really well done character. I hope we get to see more of her in the future, admittedly. I mean, I don't know if she's a recurring character or if this was just sort of a one-off kind of homage to the man who passed away. But, yeah, I guess I'll have to find out. That's actually one spoiler that I wouldn't mind knowing. So if she does make an appearance between now and, where the show is at this point, go ahead and let me know, because I'm legitimately interested to find out if she's going to appear again. But moving on, it's time for my 3rd favorite part of this episode, and it's the cubes. From the moment that they appeared until, basically there was no purpose to them anymore, I just found the cubes really intriguing, especially given the fact that the episode takes place over such a long period of time, and for that extended period, these cubes do absolutely nothing. Just absolutely nothing. And it's like, there's that very sinister feeling of, okay, I know something is going to happen, but when? And when it finally does, it had interesting results, like the one singing playing the chicken song, or the chicken dance song, I think it was. But yeah, I feel like the silliness of the cubes could have been pulled back a little bit, since they were essentially analyzing things, supposedly. But yeah, even with the silliness, they were just really, really interesting figures as far as this episode goes. And then when that countdown started, that countdown, you know, it had me on edge. I was ready to find out. It's like, you know, oh God, it's counting down still. It's keep going. What's going to happen? They haven't stopped it. Up until the moment that, you know, the cubes open up and, what was it, like nanomachines or something? They released something that essentially caused people to have a heart attack or cardiac arrest. I'll be talking about that a little bit more in a minute. But, yeah, just overall, the cubes were a very interesting and overall effective set piece of this episode. I wouldn't know if you would call them the villain because they weren't technically villains, but yeah, again, I just found it really interesting. So again, one of my favorite parts of this episode. Now, my fourth favorite part of this episode, my phone just turned off, is the Doctor's anniversary gift to the pawns. And I did find it really fun that just like, no, during this party, during their anniversary, just all of a sudden the Doctor pulls them away and they go off to do, oh, what was it? I think it was a meal in Paris or something like that. It's like a sort of almost a bed and breakfast type of deal. Oh, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was really cool. And they, both animals, both Amy and Rory looked very nice in the outfits they were wearing for that particular scene. You know, up until immediately after, apparently some big catastrophe / adventure happened while they were there. But all the same, it was really cool to see. And the fact that all of that transpired, like they went through a few weeks within a matter of moments, you know, in the time that they were from, when the party was taking place. So yeah, I just found that to be a lot of fun. And another thing that I'm actually going to comment on a bit later, despite it being one of my favorite parts of the episode. Keep me on edge a little bit. Now, my fifth and final favorite part of this episode was the idea of the pawns moving on. From the very beginning of the episode, they're talking about how they have these two separate lives. They have real world and Doctor, or was it Doctor life and real life? And I don't know, just the idea that they were looking toward, you know, being able to move on from the Doctor to settle into a semi-normal life, which the only other one, or the only other companion that I've seen so far that's actually kind of done that in a way is Martha. And, well, that was just, you know, after the big catastrophe, so she could help take care of her family. But even then, you know, she moved on to become, I guess, a part of Torchwood, maybe it was, or, you know, still fighting aliens. So that's not technically a normal life, but the idea that these two characters that I've grown attached to might, you know, leave the Doctor on their own terms and just lead a normal life, a life that they are, as Amy says at one point, you know, growing into. It's like, you know, real life is becoming a part of their lives, and they're actually enjoying it. They like it that way. So yeah, I did like that. But that brings me to my annoyances with the episode, starting with the first. It's a continuation of the previous. The pawns are moving on, and then they don't. And maybe it's just me. I mean, it's not, this wasn't, well, I'm about to ruin my thoughts on the episode overall, but I honestly felt like this would have been an okay episode, considering the theme of them being ready to move on from life with the Doctor, the on and off life with the Doctor, to have been their final episode. To be the episode where they say, you know, they say their goodbyes, and it ends peacefully, it ends nicely. So honestly, in one way, it kind of does bug me that Brian, he didn't push them to go with the Doctor, but, you know, he said that, you know, you should go be with the Doctor, have your adventures. But just the fact that I felt like the episode would have been just a nice, semi-peaceful way for the pawns to go out. They were already considering going to their real lives, or going on with their real lives. And then just all of a sudden, you know, they're off again with the doctor. It's just like, that really bothered me, because it's just for me. It's like, call it a nitpick or just, you know, personal preference, but I kind of wish that they would have stayed. You know, whether or not the doctor ever gets to see them again for some reason, I just would have preferred if they had stayed and been able to lead normal lives as the former companions of the Doctor. But, alright, now moving on from that, my second and final annoyance with this episode is that they bring people back to life. And this is probably one of the most blatant issues I've had as far as Moffat having the... well, actually, Moffat isn't even the one that wrote this episode, but with him being the head writer, there's that whole stigma of, you know, Moffat being the guy that, you know, no one dies, or very, very few people die. And then, well, basically what I'm referring to is, you know, the people have the cardiac arrest, the heart attacks, and they go down, and they're dead. They're basically dead. They fall down. They've been on the ground for quite a while. Because even the doctor, like, you know, he goes a large portion of, or a fair portion of the episode, you know, struggling with only one heart. And then they do some thing, reverse the stuff that the cubes did to people to cause the heart attacks. And then the people that were dead are alive again. Now, if it had been a few people that had survived, if, like, some people have been, you know, holding on for dear life, and they survived, that would have made a bit more sense to me. But the fact that everyone that had the heart attack, everyone that had cardiac arrest gets up, and, like, you know, essentially nothing ever happened, it's just childish, almost. It's like, it just seems childish, in my opinion, that, you know, you took away any of the real weight the episode had. Because, you know, if we have a few of these, you know, side characters that we, you know, just met, it's like, you know, if those characters die, that's one thing, because, you know, I've kind of gotten used to the aspect of, you know, throwaway characters happening since Moffat's taken over. But when you take away the aspect of just normal humans being able to die, it takes away the weight, and it takes away any tension. Now, given it is at the end of the episode, but still, it's just, it seems like such a childish move. It's like, we did this, and everybody lives, yay! And it's completely different from the episode in the first season with the 9th Doctor, where they took care of the boy with the face mask, and, you know, everyone got turned back to normal. That had logic behind it. This episode just literally, oh, we pressed a thing, did a thing, something gets reversed, everyone that just had a heart attack is alive! Or not even just had a heart attack. Like I said earlier, they had the heart attack for quite a while. Ugh. But yeah, that's, in my opinion, the biggest annoyance I have with the episode overall. Although the first one, I would say, from my perspective, is a pretty big one as well. Now, moving on from there, it's time to get into my track of the episode, and at least for the listing, and as far, you know, original songs with this episode go, there were only 3 to choose from. And I was actually stuck between 2 of them, but the one I finally decided on was Brian's Log. It's not a very long song. I think it's just under a minute, actually, in length. But it's one of the closest things that just, like, you know, a side character has had to, as far as a like a theme goes, in quite a while. Now, when I say side characters, I of course don't mean the companions like River and Amy and Rory, but just you know, a small side character like Wilf or anyone else. You know, some of the others in some of the older series, they had their own theme songs, or at least, you know, little themes that would play in the background. And Brian's Log, I think that's what it was. Brian's Log. It's just the music matched the character so well that, in my opinion, it was just a very suitable theme for him. So yeah, that's why I liked it so much. Moving on, it's time for my quote of the episode. And the full quote that I consider the quote of the episode is actually the discussion that Amy and the Doctor have going back and forth, talking about how they're considering leaving. Or it's like the Doctor noticed that they're considering leaving. And like that conversation as a whole was really well done, and I consider that specifically the quote of the episode. But there was one part of that conversation that caught my eye, and I felt like it would be appropriate for, you know, the one for me to read aloud in this video. And it's this, it's the Doctor. I'm not running away, but this is one corner in one country, in one continent, on one planet, that's a corner of a galaxy, that is a corner of a universe that is forever growing and shrinking and creating and destroying and never remaining the same for a single millisecond. And this is so much to see, Amy, because it goes so fast. I'm not running away from things, I'm running to them before they flare and fade forever. That's alright, our lives would never remain the same. They can't. One day, soon maybe, you'll stop. I've known for a while. Apologies, my stomach's growling there. Just that whole quote right there, it's one of those lines that I feel like is another way of defining the Doctor. Like in the very first episode, Rose, when the Doctor holds Rose's hand and talks about how he can feel the Earth moving. That line, again, that line right there, just, that was one of those moments for me. That was one of those moments that defines the Doctor, helps define his outlook on the universe, all of time. And that's just that's one of the reasons why I love this specific quote so much, but also that conversation as a whole. Alright, now, as for my overall thoughts on this episode, it wasn't one of the best. I'll say that. It wasn't one of the best. I thought it was enjoyable. It was not poor by any means, but it sort of holds a fairly consistent, or it pulls a fairly consistent line that the other episodes of this season have so far, where they aren't just, you know, great episodes, but they were good. And this episode was a good episode. It was overall enjoyable. It actually felt like a little bit of a return to, the way that some of the first couple of seasons were done, as far as just, you know, being on Earth and being around the family of the companion, or companions in this case, for a little while. It's just, I enjoyed that. But at the same time, there were other aspects that admittedly did bother me. There are certain things that I'm going to try and remember that I can't fully remember. But, oh, well, the Doctor's anniversary gift. One thing that I was wanting to talk about that. And I wouldn't say it's so much of an annoyance, but just something that confused me. Because at the beginning of the episode, the different people keep talking about how Amy and Rory would disappear for a month or a couple of months. And then they would, you know, all of a sudden be back. But then during their anniversary dinner, you know, they go off and they spend weeks doing whatever, and then they're back within just a few moments. Like, nothing has, like, almost no time has elapsed at all at the party. So it just left me really confused, because, okay, does the Doctor, it seems pretty consistent that he usually brings the companions back a significant amount of time later than he originally intended to. So why then, on this specific instance, did they come back at the time that they intended to? Like I said, that was just something that really confused me, kind of threw me for a loop. And it feels like there was something else that I wanted to refer to. Yeah, I can't remember what it was exactly. But overall, I feel like the episode was good, not great, and definitely not bad. It was just another one of those sort of towing the line, decent story, enjoyable, but nothing really that I feel like will stick in my memory like some other episodes will. And now moving on from there, before we close, I'm going to... actually I already mentioned my question. My question that I wrote down was, will Kate Stewart make another appearance? So I guess I should probably think of a different question off the top of my head. Well, the only one I can really think of is, and of course it's going to be something you all can't say because spoilers, but what happens to Amy and Rory? Because I don't know what happens to them exactly, but considering the next episode is called The Angels Take Manhattan, it's obvious that the Weeping Angels make a return. And then also, I've seen, while not knowing the details, I have seen the beginning of many rants about what happens to Amy and Rory. Again, no details, but it's basically people are not happy. So I can kind of have an idea of what's going to happen, but I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Maybe after a big occurrence with the angels, they finally decide to leave for good, and something happens to where the Doctor can never see them again, or they're so upset at the Doctor that they both say, you know, don't bother us anymore. I don't know, but I'm definitely interested to find out. And looking forward to doing the reaction video. Yes, there's going to be a reaction video coming up next, and then of course the Discovering Doctor Who episode after that. So yeah, until next time everyone, when I will be doing my reaction video for The Angels Take Manhattan, I'm Papa Ken, and I'll see you hopefully on Friday. If not Friday, then Saturday, but hopefully Friday. Anyway, until next time everyone, Alonzi!